Sunday morning, feeling a little bit reflective. Haven't done a video for a couple of weeks because I've just been so crazy busy. We've been still dealing with paperwork for the end of the building works, which has gone on. I've got to obviously submit everything that I needed to for various things. There's been that to deal with. For the first time in my life, I'm quite organised in terms of all my end of year for tax last year. And now I've been dealing with so much other paperwork for other things that I didn't even know existed that now I have to do. But it's all part of it, isn't it? It's all part of the life's rich tapestry, as they say. Beekeeping has been really good, but really hot the last 2 weeks. Our nectar flow that started off so well is basically crashing massively. And I saw hives yesterday that I were thinking they were going to do really well, and they are probably 2/3 down on nectar that I thought they were going to have, maybe half of what I thought. So it looks like it's going to be kind of a very, very average, if not low summer harvest. Now, we saw this in 2022 when we had no rain from about mid-March, and we had no rain from mid-March this year. So putting two and two together, it's just a repeat. So the nectar flow is drying up. There's loads of pollen. There's plenty of pollen. The good news is I'll still be able to make lots of splits, which I'm going to be doing with all these. And I've done, as you know, 40 that I've done already, which has gone really well. But the last hot spell when they just got mated and were starting to lay has caused havoc. And I was looking at them yesterday, and some of them have just gone off. They've just absconded for no reason, which I've never had before. They had 5 frames in a 6-frame nuke. They didn't even pull up all the frames because there's not been a lot of nectar, but it's just the incredible heat. And I think this is something that I'm going to have to learn to deal with if we do have such a thing as climate change, because we are getting drier here generally. The winters are always wet because the sun is never strong enough to dry out the ground, so the water just continues to, you know, well, the rain we do get, which is quite a lot being on the English Channel, in the Gulf Stream. I'm not saying which Gulf. We get plenty of humidity, so in the winters that's fine, but come the summer it just seems to be dry. So we'll get a good spring flow always with the spring flowers and the start of the summer flow, and then it just disappears off because our ground is really dry. So last year we actually had quite a good summer flow, which was good because the spring flow was terrible and it was just so cold and such a crap spring. This year we've had a beautiful weather, but absolutely zero rain that's gone in. And if you get no rain that goes into the ground from literally April onwards, it just starts going the other way and drying up. And we have generally quite shallow soils here and quite stony. So the problem is that is again going to probably be the cause of this year's low crop. Everything was good. The bees were good. The colonies were good. Not too much swarming in the spring. We had a bit. But the only good thing, as I was just about to say before, is that the colonies are strong. There's plenty of pollen. There's plenty of food in the brood boxes, which is better than a couple of years ago. And I'm going to have to feed quite a bit probably. But overall, we'll be fine. So I'm going to raise a load more queens in the next 3 to 4 weeks as I make nukes. And then what I'll probably do is buy some queens in at the end of the season just to make those final splits before we end the season. And the other thing is, when the season will end, we don't know, because very often now, as it gets a little bit warmer, we are able to raise brood and young bees slightly longer. So yeah, it's all things to consider and to think about. The thing for the moment, this is, as you know, I've shown you this picture the other week when my chestnut tree was in full flower. This is the state of it now. And I've said to you before, and I pointed this out, the minute we see the chestnut fronds on the ground, that is the start of the end of the season. And they are all falling now. And basically, that means it's time to do the big splits and even making small colonies that are good and get queens in them. So we're a little bit, we're a week early this year, so I'm going to really go hell for leather this year to do as much as I can, as quick as I can, to get ahead of things, to make sure that I'm on the ball, because I want to get up, because I've already got 40 nukes made, and I know that some of those have absconded, so I've got to sort those quickly. And the problem you have is when you have queens that abscond, you have to make a decision: is do you add a frame of bees and brood, and then do you add another virgin queen, or do you just bite the bullet and buy in some queens very quickly and then add those in while the colony is still in a receiving condition? So that's what I've done. I've actually went online last night and I've got some queens coming, just 15 queens for the 40 nukes. And what I can do is, if I don't use them all, I can put those into other nukes and splits I'm going to be making in the next 2 weeks. So the good news is I've got someone coming to help me for 2 weeks. Personally, in France, we call someone on a stage. So I'm ordering them a spare bee suit, even though I've got a couple spare there, but I want them to have a good suit because we're going to be working hard doing the bees. And the honey house is all cleaned, ready to go for the summer flow. I've been getting some extra stuff in the warming cupboard, ready for orders if they come in. Everything's washed, clean, done. Pumps checked. I've stripped the pump I used the other day. That one that I haven't showed you yet, but I've done a video on that, and I'll probably put that on this video because I like to leave my pumps, so that squeezes in there when it's running, and I like to leave my pumps not connected up because I just believe that having an impeller misshapen for the whole time isn't the best thing. But anyway, that's what I've done with that. But my point is, this is all cleaned, ready to go, ready to for the next summer flow. But I don't honestly think the summer flow is going to be that good, and I think that my machine will probably be underused. But that's fine. The only downside with a poor summer flow is the opposite to the spring flow, which means that you are dealing with half-filled frames and lots of them. So we have to consider all of that. There won't be a lot of decapping. There'll be much less wax, which will be fine, but you know, it is what it is. You just get on and deal with it. But I just point this out because it becomes what we call a bit of a ball ache, to be honest. There's nothing better than extracting full frames, and it's nice and you see a quick result. But when you're doing the summer flow that is a poor flow, it's really tedious because there's not a lot of honey in each frame. You can end up extracting 40 or 50 supers to one barrel, where when you get to the spring flow, you can have literally 24 to 26 supers, and that will fill one barrel, which is amazing. So, you know, you get very, very full frames. There's lots of things I'm going to go with you over the next few months because I'm changing a lot of the things I'm doing in terms of supers, in terms of how I configure my nukes, how all that kind of stuff is we're going to go through and redo it, because I've kind of been thinking today about the way I do things, and if I can just work on what I know works best, for instance, on Varroa and caging my queens and vaping at the right time, I know that I will reduce my winter losses for next year. And now I've got the facility here finished. There's no excuse for not doing what I need to do at the right time, because that's what I do, and I need to just iron those things out. So what I'm kind of saying today is I'm being a bit reflective, and it's been lovely to have a bit of a week off where I've just been getting the honey house ready, getting some honey ready to go out, and having a little bit of time again just to get organized for the next session which is going to be really intense. And it was obviously pretty disappointing for me going to see nukes 2 days ago and yesterday that hadn't done what I'd hoped they'd done. They'd made queens, they'd started to lay brood, and then just to abscond, some of them gone just for no reason but the hot weather. It happens from time to time because it was like 36, 38 degrees and a strong nectar flow. But as I said, the nectar flow is not strong, but strong enough at that temperature with those small colonies for the bees for the queens just to go off. They don't make a cell, they just go off for no reason. It's like they get crazy they're intoxicated by something. It could be the chestnut, it could be, I don't know, it could be pesticide, whatever, but something's happened, and I've got to fix that. So I put that into place. But yeah, it's just nice to have a little bit of time just to kind of kick back a bit, whereas in another 2 weeks, I'll be flat out and there'll be absolutely tons to do. So Bit of preparation this week, making up nukes, which are dead quick to make up. I still haven't got enough frames, got to make more of those up. It's all go, but everything is at hand now. So it's that time to work now, to get those colonies split, not to make huge splits, just to take a little bit of bees and brood from each colony in the summer, lose those flying bees, let them do their job, take the nukes away with some brood, basically work hard at what I'm doing and use my experience to do a good job. So I'll be sharing that with you as we make all these splits, and hopefully we'll get some good mating. My strategy is, the way I think it's going to go is that I think that we're going to have an elevated Asian hornet presence this year. And I know that when we have that, the drones are the first to disappear. So that's quite good that I'm on the ball early, because what I'm going to do is I'm going to raise a load of queens as much as I can. So I'm stocking the cell builder tomorrow, starting making splits next week, and then I'll be amassing my nukes in the mating yard. So first thing, I'll be bringing a lot of colonies into one area, because I know there's going to be a dearth on anyway, and they'll all have to be fed. So that's one thing. But by putting them together, you reduce the pressure from Asian hornets on individual colonies. But because I know the number of drones are going to drop probably pretty quickly in August, I want to get as many of my colonies mated and back by the end of July and into August, before the brown stuff hits the shiny whirly thing regarding Asian hornet numbers. I've got my traps ready to go in the apiaries to help protect the apiaries. I'm bringing in, as I said, bees to apiaries and to amass the numbers, so there's not one single colony that's specifically targeted. I think that's a good strategy to have. But I'm also, as I said, going to buy queens in at the end of it all to make those last splits safely. And I've got some good nutritional stuff coming. I've got some pollen patties to try that I'm going to share with you from one company. I've also got some new pollen traps that I'm going to try from the honey pour company. So it's the honey pour hives do these bases that will fit my hives. And I'll take my Necoplastic base off, and then the honey pour hives have a different high density base that will take the place of this one. And then into that at the back will slide these pollen traps. Now, I haven't spoken much about pollen traps because historically I've used an external trap that sits on the front here. And you might have seen pictures of me with those on my hives. Now, I'm not going to go into detail much, but the problem with external pollen traps is they work well, but the pollen is prone to becoming wet at the end of the day in a moist area, in a place that's generally moister. And when you tend to trap most pollen is in the spring and early summer, in a lot of time. So that's obviously the chestnut pollen we'd be trapping now. I haven't got those ready. So, but my point is, at the back of the pollen trap is a drawer. And the pollen is caught inside and underneath the colony as the bees go in and up. So the brilliant thing is, I will, for the first time, be able to start harvesting pollen. And I know these traps work because if you want to see where they work, go to Ollie Nolan's site in Ollie's farm. I'll put the link up now. You can see him harvesting pollen. These traps, I'm giving them a shout because as a gift, I'm getting, I bought 10 of the hives, 10 of the bases to try, and the pollen traps. And as a gift, they're giving me a whole hive as well. So I'm telling you that now. It's not anything I'm hiding, but I'm going to try these new bases and see how they do. And I'm not getting paid to promote or anything. I'm just looking forward to have a project where we can try something different. Because my biggest problem was, as I said before, in a roundabout sort of way, was the pollen getting wet. And when it gets wet, it gets lumpy and it's not right. You should be able to either have to harvest it each day, which is fine if you've got an apiary nearby. But if you can't get to an apiary for a couple of days, you don't want that pollen being ruined. And it's just such a waste of all the hard work the bees have done. So, and we'll be able to basically have, I'm probably going to end up with 20 of these pollen traps, but I'm going to try 10 next spring and maybe get 10 more during the winter to paint up as well. They've got to be painted like most polyhives and polyhive components. So I'll hopefully have those ready to go for next spring, but I'll show you me getting those ready and hopefully we'll have a good result. But I've got a pollen cleaner. I bought that year before last. I still haven't used because I haven't had everything ready. I've just been doing so much other stuff. So it's nice to be able to start thinking about all the little peripheries that I've always had in mind that I haven't really had time to put my energy into, but because now the rest of it is up and running, I can work on those products. So I've got the honey in jars, that's on the supermarket shelf. I'm looking to go into another supermarket, but now this is where I have to be careful as well, because will I have enough buckwheat for next year? I don't know. The buckwheat has been terrible. It's not looking very good. I'll be lucky, I think, if I get 200 kilos out of it at the moment. The rain we were supposed to have last week came and it was only 10 mil. So it's less than half an inch. So that will keep it going for a few days, but I don't know how much we're going to have at the end of it. It's all very, very relevant when you kind of want to guarantee a supply. So that's my thoughts. Anyway, I just wanted to share those with you, that I've had a little bit of a kickback the last week, 10 days to get other things done that were really important. But now I'm back on the case. Cell building is starting again, and we will be raising some lovely queens, grafting, and all being well, we will be making the first splits within the next few days. So watch this space. I've got a video coming up on creaming honey, and I've used that pump that I just showed you to transfer honey from the barrel to the honey creamer, which worked absolutely fantastically. So I'm really pleased with that. And yeah, it basically saved a lot of work, a lot of time, and a lot of mess. One thing that did come up yesterday was really cool. I got a message on Instagram from a guy in Turkey, and I've asked him if it's okay to publish his name and username, but he sent me this message saying that he'd used my cell builder and he'd followed my recommendations online, and super pleased. 16 out of 16 cells. Look at that raw jelly, absolutely stunning. It's such a boost to your self-esteem and a general feeling of good when you can share something like that and someone else picks up on what you're doing and the rewards are there. So you can raise cells. If you think it's too much for you, this guy did it in another country, doesn't speak my language. Well, I don't think he speaks English, but fantastic. And thanks so much for sending that. Really appreciate it. My brush cutter's been doing really well. I'm off out with this afternoon. I have to say, now we've got big numbers of colonies. The bees really don't like it, and I'm afraid I've lost a few, but essentially I have to get my apiaries cut. Anybody who has large apiaries to cut, get something like that with a single rotary blade, because that will go through literally anything, and it's literally done its 6th or 7th year now. I do get it serviced regularly, but it doesn't do anything else other than my apiaries. And because of that, it's really well maintained for what it is. But it cut so much last week. That's what I've been doing basically, and it's all pretty run-of-the-mill boring stuff, what we call drudgery beekeeping work. But it had to be done, so now I can go into the apiaries and harvest and do everything else that I need to safely, because there's nothing worse than tripping over brambles. But I always say we do 2 main cuts a year in most apiaries, sometimes 3. But the second one is now done everywhere, apart from this afternoon. I'm off out in the truck to do 1 more cut and 1 more trim. I've just put new strimmer cord on, or new whippersnipper cord on my strimmer, on my whippersnipperer for this afternoon to do around the hives. I like to get everything prepared so that I've got a full spool of cord before I go out, and then I don't have to change cord in the middle of strimming if the bees are really shitty. Because once this thing does its business first, then I don't want to have to change the bobbin, because it's just annoying trying to do it with gloves on, because the bees are into everything because you piss them off so much. So it's really funny. But that machine, as much as it disturbs them, is worth its weight in gold. 4-stroke, reliable, solid Kawasaki engine. It's a Japanese machine. I don't know if I've told you before, made by a company called OREC, O-R-E-C. I absolutely love it, and I'll get another one if that one broke. So for me, that works really well, but it was kind of, that's what I've been doing, and all the apiaries are cut. We're now ready to go and do the splits. So you have to program everything in as much as you can to make sure that when you move to the next stage, the previous thing is done so that you're not tripping over everything. You can't work in uncut apiaries. You must get that under control. So quite a productive afternoon here. Been out doing the last brush cutting around the apiaries. This is the last one that I need to do regularly, and we are all tidy now. So what I've done is I've done a bit more, because we're going to expand this in the autumn, probably maybe in a few weeks. A lot of the nukes I'm going to make are going to go here as well. So I have one nuke station where my other nukes are, that nuke yard, and one more here in front, because it's obviously better to increase our amount of nukes overall into one area. In other words, not too many, not on their own, isolated. So that's what I'm going to do. First of all, I'll just point out, you can see the chestnut here. If you look down there, you can see there's one there that's nearly finished, one there that is in full flower, one there that's finished, that's kind of midway as well. But basically all around, there's one over there. Everywhere you go, there's chestnut in flower. But unfortunately, it just isn't yielding this year. It started well, and that was the initial amount of moisture in the ground. Now there's just not. I've just looked in the top of those groups of 3 hives there, very, very little nectar in there, and it should be absolutely full. We should have 3 supers by now. With the weather we've had, it's just A1 typical that unfortunately everything else is perfect, except there's no moisture in the ground. As I was talking before, no real rain since mid-March, and now, it's bone dry. And also for the ivy in the autumn, for that to be good, we'll need some really significant rain now, between now and then. In other words, quite a lot of rain over the next 8 weeks, which there's no chance of getting at the moment, unless the weather pattern completely changes. But still, as we say, it is what it is. Catch you again later. Bye for now.